Hello everyone and welcome to another Black Ops 3 video. So DLC season is upon us and very soon we're going to have map packs and weapon camos and player skins, probably new guns, maybe even a new specialist or two. And that's going to make a lot of people mad because a lot of people hate the DLC business model that has taken over gaming as of late. And so today I wanted to go a little bit deeper into the numbers and find out why DLC is taking over gaming, why people hate it so much, and maybe address some of the issues that people think are being caused by DLC. One of the most common complaints you hear about DLC is, I paid $60 for the game, I deserve the entire game. I don't want to buy a portion of the game and then every few months they make me pay even more money for the game. This type of complaint is geared more towards things like map packs and whatnot because the maps have already been pretty much created. They know what they're doing, they have them probably completely created, and all they're going to do is hide them behind a paywall that you can't have. And a lot of people feel like, well, that's not fair because I bought the game and those maps are part of the game, and so I'm not getting the full experience until I get those maps. So I wanted to compare Black Ops 3 to GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64. When GoldenEye came out in 1997, it cost around $50 to buy. Now that $50 in 1997 would be $75 today, and that's the number we're going to be using because I want to keep this in perspective. I don't want people to start thinking $50 by today's standards. We want to talk about what the game costs in comparison to Black Ops 3, so we're going to use the inflation number. So $75 for GoldenEye 007. With that $75, you get a single player campaign that lasts roughly 10 hours of gameplay, which is pretty good. And you get 13 multiplayer maps, split screen, local play only multiplayer. So $75 gets you 13 maps of local multiplayer and a 10-hour campaign. Compared to Black Ops 3, which has an 8-hour campaign, not quite as long as GoldenEye, but still close. That campaign, by the way, is multiplayer co-op, which is new. You also get 14 maps, which is one more map than you got in GoldenEye. Of course, it is online, so you're playing with people all over the world. You don't have to get your friends to come over just to fill the room. And you also get zombies, which is practically an entire game in and of itself. I mean, it honestly would not take much for zombies to be the type of game that people would spend $60 on. So for $15 less, you're getting one more map, online support, co-op campaign, and zombies. And yet people are going to sit there and say, well, I paid $60 for this. I deserve to have 12 more maps, probably 4 more guns, presumably a couple new characters, and lots of camos, or else I'm being ripped off? Really? No, let's face facts. If they did not come out with map packs, if the game you have right now was the game that you get to play until next year, you would not feel like $60 was a ripoff. You get a lot of content with the game that you have at your disposal just for your base $60. The next complaint you hear a lot of people say is, well, it's just the rich get richer. Activision's so greedy. They just want to milk us out of more money and more money and more money. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rich get richer argument. And just so you know, for this part of the discussion, these are going to be generalities because gaming developers are not very open with how much they really spend to make the games. So these are kind of averages rather than specific numbers for specific games, but they are as accurate as I can make them. So going back to 1996 and 97, games cost around $3 to $5 million to make, and they cost you around $50 to buy. So what that means is they have to sell 80,000 copies of their game before they start turning a profit. Now in the post-2010 era, You take games like Watch Dogs with 68 million, Destiny cost 140 million, Disney Infinity 100 million, Defiance 70 million. Let's just estimate $60 million to make a game today. And they sell them for $60 a piece. They have to sell, obviously, this is easy math, 1 million copies of the game just to break even. Which means that compared today to 1997, game developers have to sell 920,000 more copies of their games just to break even in today's market. So when you're talking about rich get richer, who's really getting richer? The developers are spending more money to develop the game, they're selling them for roughly the same price, and they're making actually a significantly lower amount of money per unit sold. Now, don't get me wrong, Activision, EA, these developers are not struggling. I'm not claiming that they're struggling. But they are taking a massive hit in terms of how much money they make per unit sold when comparing them to the mid to late 90s. So it's reasonable to expect the developers to want to earn back some of that missing revenue that they're not bringing in from a time when games cost less to make and you could sell for more money. And so they come out with downloadable content. And it's not just Call of Duty, it's every game. You got games like Skyrim, Fallout, Assassin's Creed, games like that all have DLC. And now you're going to say, but Jay, Call of Duty is above and beyond. Call of Duty is ridiculous. They'll come out with 500 extra products of DLC. When you look at Skyrim, Skyrim only had 3 products of DLC. You had 2 new storylines and, the ability to build a house and adopt a child, basically. And the price of those DLCs was around the price of 1 map pack for Call of Duty. So you get Call of Duty is bringing you 4 map packs and a bunch of camos and new guns and everything else. They take DLC to a whole new level. And the thing is that, yes, they do, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is when you take a look at a single-player game like Assassin's Creed, the thing about it is that when Assassin's Creed is released, it's pretty much done. The developers have done their job, everybody goes home, they celebrate a great new game, and they start working on the next game. When a Call of Duty developer releases a game, they understand that their job is just beginning. They are not close to being done. When you think about it, let's take Skyrim again. Skyrim has several major flaws in it. There are places where you can open up a line of dialogue and just hit X over and over and over and over and over again and max out your speech craft. There are vendors that you can manipulate to giving you free archery training up to level 50, things like that. There are exploits all over Skyrim. The thing about it is an exploit is fine with a single player game because there's nobody around you ruining it. So, you can choose not to take advantage of those exploits and you'll be just fine. In Call of Duty, though, an exploit is something that has to be taken care of because if you choose to play the game the way the developers wanted it played, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage because everyone around you is going to take advantage of that exploit. I don't know if this is still in the game or not, but there is a glitch where if you have the VMP applied as a secondary with Overkill, you have no footsteps. Now, if you choose not to take advantage of that, good for you. You have integrity, and you can take your integrity all the way to the loser circle because everyone else is going to take advantage of it and have an advantage over you. So the developers have to fix it. I don't know if you guys have noticed that Exodus has not been in the rotation lately. Why? Because there's lots of glitches all over it that people were exploiting, and so they took it out to fix the map. And it's not the underwear gnomes doing that. It is the Call of Duty developers, this people at Treyarch that are still, 2 months after the release of the game, still working on the game. If you don't have that kind of support, Advanced Warfare is nothing but the Ball 27 from beginning to end, and there's tons of map glitches all over the place. But because the developers keep working on it, you're not stuck with nothing but the M8A7, and you're not firing at people who are outside of the map, and you're not dealing with footstep glitches and everything else. And the reason is because it's still in production. And that costs money. Games like League of Legends and Call of Duty and Halo and those multiplayer games like that take a lot of money after the game is developed to keep the game fun. And now you're going to say, well, maybe if they would just make the game good to begin with, they wouldn't have to worry about fixing it constantly after it's out. The problem is that they don't know. They have no idea how the game's going to play out once it's handed to 10 million people. For example, when Advanced Warfare is coming out, they had several pro players and several YouTubers play the game ahead of time and give their reviews of it. And every single one of them thought that the HBRA-3 was going to be the go-to gun. They thought that was going to be the borderline overpowered gun. And it wasn't even a week into release before every single person realized that the Ball 27 was the best gun for any playstyle. So they had to fix that. And nobody saw that coming, not even the YouTubers and pros who know a lot more about actually playing Call of Duty than the developers do themselves. So when you look at the cost to actually make the game, the cost to maintain the game after it's released, the cost to maintain the servers, and the cost to release updates and everything else, it's not in any way unreasonable for the developers to try and get some of that finance back. The fact is that DLC is keeping them from selling the game for $100 each, and that's really the alternative. When you really get down to it, there are three choices. One of them is they sell you the game for $60 and then forget about it and start working on the next game, and you're stuck with tons of glitches and exploits and unbalanced weapons for the duration of the game. The next one is they sell you the game for $100+, then offer the same service that they give you anyway. Or the third is that they sell you the game for $60 with no DLC, offer the same kind of service that you get, then stop making the game altogether because Activision doesn't think it's a viable revenue stream anymore. So what it really comes down to is option 4, which is the DLC model, is the best one. And I'm not even going to mention the subscription-based model that so many MMOs go with. So thanks for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this put DLC in a little bit more context for you. I didn't like DLC at first either, but once I took a step back and looked at the big picture and the cost of making a game, the cost of buying a game, and the cost of maintaining a game and everything else, I realized that DLC is necessary and really is the best way to go for the consumer and for the developer. It's mutually beneficial. So I've already bought all the map packs. I suggest you do too because it's a really good game and there's never a problem with having more content. Goodbye.